Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well. And today we're going to be talking about some film news. We're going to also continue to talk about the controversy going on right now between Universal Studios and pretty much every major theater chain in the United States over the release of films on PVOD at the same time as theatrical releases, and whether or not that is going to continue to go forward and where that drama currently is. But one bit of news I did want to talk about, because it definitely ticks me off quite a bit, is the fact that everything going on with the virus around the world has now impacted John Wick Chapter 4, which ticks me off to no end because John Wick has become one of my all-time favorite franchises. The fact that it's still relatively new, I want to say the first film came out around 2014, so still a very fresh franchise in the grand scheme of, the history of franchises. And this film was supposed to get a 2021 release. Now, because of all of the production delays, it is now going to be pushed back to 2022, which just makes me very, very infuriated because I want me some more John Wick. And so let's go ahead and dive into it. So Lionsgate has just shifted a number of movies originally scheduled for this year, pre-virus, to next year and beyond. John Wick 4 will no longer open on May 21st, 2021, where Warner Brothers plopped Keanu Reeves' Matrix 4. Rather, it'll be May 27th, 2022, which is Memorial Day weekend. So I think that overall, it's a good weekend choice for that film. I think that film is going to do very well in 2022 because most of the chaos from the virus will definitely have subsided by then. I would say that the box office will probably ramp back up to a normal level or a subnormal level, because I still have a thought that the box office will never fully recover from everything going on with this, especially with the war over whether studios will try and release films onto demand services either earlier than normal or potentially even trying to push it to the same day. I don't think they'll get there quite yet. I do think that is going to be the future of filmmaking in the next 5 to 10 years. However, I don't think they're quite yet there right now because of the power that movie theater chains still currently have in our world. With all that being said, though, it does tick me off that The Matrix 4, which is a film I really have no desire to see, even though it does have Keanu Reeves, and even though it does, it is bringing a lot of the original characters back. I think the first Matrix film was great, and then everything that came after that just never lived up to that first film. And now they're trying to retread old ground that, from what we all were told, was pretty much done away with because the movie ended. The story ended. They cleared up most of what was going on. They cleared up all the situations, and it just seemed like them announcing Matrix 4 was just a cash grab opportunity. So yeah, it might make certain fans happy. They might be able to tell an interesting story, but at the end of the day, I just have very little interest in it because of those last two films, especially that last film in the original trilogy. And also the fact that the ending of that story seemed to be pretty clear-cut, at least from my perspective. There might be others out there that say, it was kind of open-ended, and they could definitely go in certain directions with it. But for me, I would much rather them push Matrix 4 back to 2022 than for them to push John Wick Chapter 4. But I imagine it has a lot to do with where both films are currently in production. And as I said, 2022 Memorial Day weekend for John Wick 4 will probably make and seeing the trends of those films, which has been great to see, because every John Wick film that has come out every single time, like every 2 to 3 years, has made more and more money because it started off basically establishing and bringing in a new franchise base, and then every year it brought in more and more people because people saw the first film and then told their friends, hey, you need to watch this film. That's why the Blu-rays sold so well for the movie. It made even more people fans of it, so that when the second film came out, even bigger audience, and more and more and more. And so I think Chapter 4 could potentially be the highest audience rating and either the highest audience box office for it in the entire franchise. But of course, we'll have to wait and see. But a good weekend for it to come out, because that is just about the start of the summer box office, and having that weekend, that extra bit of time, I think will be a very big thing and a very good thing for the film going forward. But let's go ahead and dive into that. NBC Universal versus AMC versus Regal. Again, pretty much all the theaters, major theater chains in the United States have made it very clear that they will not show any movies from any studios that do exactly what Universal is doing, which is to try and basically suspect or insinuate that they will continue to release films on demand earlier than what had previously been established. For those that are new to this, basically, normally studios give a 3-month window where their movies are shown exclusively in major theaters, so that way the theaters can make money from popcorn, soft drinks, but also theaters get more money as a film is longer out, right? So the studios get a large portion of that ticket price, about 90% of every ticket in those first 2 weeks. And then every third, fourth, fifth, and again, as long as a film is out, the theater chains, AMC, Regal, get more and more money as the film lasts longer. So for them to try and insinuate that they're going to do video on demand means that there's potentially less people going to the theater, because obviously the theater experience does need to improve. Again, there's still a lot of people, every time I talk about this, that are more so on Universal side, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're pissed off at AMC because AMC is currently owned by a giant conglomerate in China. And I totally understand that. And I think that you have absolutely every right to be critical of the company for that very reason. That being said, when I say I'm pro AMC or on the side of AMC, what I basically mean is that I'm on the side of the movie theater chains because I'm still a fan of going to the movie theater. That all being said, I do hope that this entire situation makes theaters realize they need to start innovating. They need to start providing more reason for people to go to the theater, whether that means being more proactive in stopping people from using their cell phones, whether that means trying to limit the number of kids that can go into a given show, especially for films that are PG-13 rated R. I think all of those things are, absolutely reasons why a lot of people would choose not to go to a movie theater nowadays, because why spend so much money going to a theater with all these distractions and with all this chaos when one could just stay at home and watch a film on demand instead? Again, I get it, I understand it, and I do understand that that is absolutely going to be the future of movie making going, especially with the streaming wars really ramping up this month, because HBO Max is set to come out in the next couple of weeks, and so that's going to be very exciting to see the content that they bring in and also the number of subscriptions as well. But with all that being said, I do firmly still believe in movie theaters going forward. But it looks like NBC Universal is starting to, step back a little bit from their initial comments, because at the end of the day, they realize that the bigger money as of right now still is going to be in those theatrical releases. They know that they still need movie theaters to make money because, they can make some decent money on demand because they still get, for rentals, usually the metric that I've been seeing and the research that I've done is that when a studio puts a movie on for rental on places like iTunes, Google Play, it's about a 70-30 split. So the studio gets about 70% of that money, where iTunes, Google Play, etc. get about 30%. That's a little bit better than the ratio with theaters, which tends to be 60-40. So studios get about 60% of the entire box office money, whereas theaters, by the end of its runs, because these are all numbers by the end of the runs, get around 40% of the entire box office take. But with all that being said, it is, I know that I say that a lot, it does seem to indicate that while that's a better split, there's still a lot more people going and spending a lot more money at theaters than there are people spending it on demand services. I think that eventually will change over time because video on demand and streaming is definitely the future. But I'm glad to see that it seems Universal is not stepping back completely, but at least seemingly talking in a little bit more sensible terms. And so days after Jeff Shell's statements, this is from Deadline, in the Wall Street Journal, spurred AMC boss Adam Aron to embargo the studio's films, NBC Universal CEO acknowledged the company's commitment to theatrical, but that premium video on demand, that's what PVOD means, video on demand, will still be a part of the equation. And I don't think that AMC or Regal have said that it shouldn't be. It's mostly the proximity of how close that PVOD release is to the theatrical one. Having theatrical windows where films are exclusive to theaters and not on demand is very important for those business models and for those theaters to be able to remain profitable. But let's go into it. The question is, when we come out of this pandemic, what is going to be the model? I would expect that consumers will return to theaters and we will be a part of that. And I also expect PVOD is going to be a part of that in some way. It's not a replacement, it's going to be a complementary element. We're just going to have to see how long that takes and where it takes us, Shell said Thursday during the conference call. There's no questions that theatrical will someday be a central element to our business and film business. It's how people make their movies and how they expect their movies to be seen. But the flip side is the majority of our movies, whether we like it or not, are not being consumed, or rather are being consumed at home. It's not realistic to assume that we're going to change, that this part of the business isn't going to change like all parts of the business are going to change. And I think that is a very good point, that all of this stuff going on with the pandemic is going to have to force companies, whether it's the theaters or the studios, to change and to adapt in a various amount of ways. And I'm glad that they're basically saying, okay, so maybe it's not going to be releasing it on demand the same day that it's meant to have a theatrical release, but that there's going to have to be some type of change, whether that means shortening those release windows, which, to be honest, I think that's probably going to be the future, is that instead of it being a 3-month window, maybe it is shortened to a 1-month window or a 2-week window or something like that. The studios and the theaters are going to have to come together to work that out, because right now it's just Universal that is doing that. However, very soon Disney and other studios are going to start to do that as well. As at this point, Trolls World Tour has been the only film that first had a theatrical release that then got canceled and then it went straight to demand instead. Pretty soon Disney is going to be on that with films like Artemis Fowl coming to their streaming service instead of it being in the theatrical window as well. And so I think that once other studios start to do the same thing that Universal is, it's going to have to start bringing those theater chains to that table. But as I said, I'm still very much on the side of the theaters themselves, not because I'm pro-China group, the Wanda group that owns AMC, but because I'm just on the side of theaters in general, whether that's Regal Cinemas, Cinemark, the local theater chains as well, or local individually owned theaters by families. I just think that going to a movie theater and having that experience at this point in time, and again, this could easily change, is still going to be that much better than anything that PVOD could possibly be able to render, especially when you talk about the quality of the image, the quality of the sound, because basically you are only limited at home with the setup that you have. I would much rather pay a premium price of around $10 to $15 per film to go see a movie on a giant screen with great sound and great image quality, and I think that a lot of people would much rather be in that position as well. But of course, I think Universal is trying to think ahead on this, because we don't know how long this pandemic is going to last, how long it's going to impact theaters, and they still have a bunch of films that have either been finished or in the process of being finished that they still need to make returns on their investment on, and the only way that they can do that right now is by releasing them on demand. And so at this moment, releasing films on demand makes complete sense. But I think the reason why so much controversy has been surrounding this is that Universal has seemed to indicate that once all of this blows over and things go back to normal, that they would still try and do the same thing that they're doing right now, which I don't think is a good move going forward. But anyway, what are your thoughts about this? Again, it looks like Universal is stepping back just a little bit, but not completely. Again, obviously PVOD is gonna play a role in every major studio's film process going forward, but the question is, where do the theaters fall into that, and will they have a say in it? I think that they should, especially since they take about 40% of every film's total market value. And I think that that's something that they're going to have to come to the table on at one point. And also, what are your thoughts about the film I talked about? Again, having John Wick 4 being pushed back, Matrix 4 getting that spot instead. Do you think that waiting for John Wick is going to make it better or worse? Obviously, it's still in production, and so we don't want them to rush it out. We want them to give us the best possible film there. It's just, to me, having the film replaced by The Matrix 4 just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So let me know your thoughts about this and everything that we talked about in the comment section below. If you like this video, please smash that like button, hit that subscribe as well. Also, consider becoming a member on Patreon, Subscribestar, on the YouTube channel as well by hitting that join button, and any other location where I have PayPal, Streamlabs, etc. All different ways that you can help support the channel. Keeps the lights on, keeps this channel going, and it really does mean a lot. You are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless. And now a huge shout out to my May Patreon and Subscribestar members: Albertus Magnus, Animation Commentator, Brian P., Dion, Divex, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Weeder Dog Clan, Harold Francis, the Hunker, Chunker, Funker Monkey, Inflamed Wood, It's a Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jeffrey Toon, Kenneth Camiel, Lady T, Laura Story, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mike Jackson, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, Orange Hat Reviews, Outpost Dyer, Out of Step with Reality, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, The DJD Show, and Tina B. Thank you all for being my Patreon members, and a shout out to my Subscribestar peeps: John B., Perpetual Punster, Robert Revo, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, G2 Cool 99, Darkstar 57, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., US 888209 Fast, Dean Heiss, Harold Francis, J. Rod the Beer Guru, Nevadon G. Adams, and ZK Man. I'm going to leave that pause there just in case anyone decides to join for the month of May, because you can indeed join on Patreon or Subscribestar at any time this month to be eligible for any of the perks. They include access to an exclusive podcast that I do with John, the Flick Pick of John Flickinger's fame, so make sure you go ahead and check that out at the $10 and up level. Also, if you Subscribestar or Patreon at $5 or up, you have access to exclusive giveaways of 4K movies, digital films, and a bunch of other stuff in between as well. And if anything, you could at least give just anything that you really want to help support the channel, and it would really help me out a lot. It keeps the lights on, makes me able to continue to do this kind of stuff. So anything you possibly give, check out some more information in the description of the Patreon, Subscribestar, and of course YouTube membership links as well. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.